My name is Sophie Caldwell, and I've spent most of my 34 years being invisible in Willow Creek Estates. This postcard-perfect suburban hellhole outside Austin, Texas, where the HOA doesn't just enforce rules, it owns your soul. The place looks idyllic on the surface. Identical beige McMansions with perfectly edged lawns. White fences that scream, "We're all the same here," and those cheerful "Welcome to Willow Creek" signs that might as well read, "Abandon all individuality. Ye who enter." But behind the smiley faces and potluck invites lives one woman who runs the whole show like a mini dictator with a clipboard, Deborah Hargrove. Everyone calls her Debbie, but I've always thought of her as Karen Langley 2.0, the golden queen of the neighborhood. Debbie's house is the shrine. Her lawn is never a millimeter over the sacred 2.5-inch height. Her American flag is always exactly 3 by 5 feet, never one thread out of place. Because God forbid the property values drop. Every board meeting, neighbors fawn over her like she's handing out golden tickets. "Debbie, your new rose bushes are just divine. Debbie, thank you for keeping our community standards so high." Meanwhile, my little attempts to suggest anything got the same glazed-over stares as a bad PowerPoint at a funeral. I moved in 5 years ago, fresh off a graphic design gig that let me work from home, dreaming of a simple backyard pollinator garden with native Texas wildflowers to bring in butterflies and bees. Nothing crazy, just something that didn't look like every other sterile patch of ST. Augustine grass. I even put together a polite proposal for the annual HOA meeting. Low water plants, zero impact on curb appeal, maybe even a community education sign. I stood up in that stuffy community center, laptop open, heart pounding, and explained how it could actually raise property values long-term by attracting eco-conscious buyers. Debbie sat at the head table in her pastel cardigan and pearl necklace, smiling that sweet, poisonous smile that never reached her eyes. She let me finish, then tilted her head like I was a confused puppy. "Oh, Sophie, honey, that's just adorable. A little hippie garden in the middle of Willow Creek? We have covenants for a reason. Dear, uniformity protects everyone's investment. Your wildflowers would look unsightly, attract pests, and frankly, who knows what kind of weeds they bring. We can't have that chaos." The room chuckled politely. One neighbor actually whispered, "She's right. Sophie, remember when the Johnsons tried those solar panels?" I try to push back gently, but the covenants don't specifically ban native plants. Debbie cut me off with a wave of her manicured hand. "Technicalities? Dear, vision matters here. Community standards. Stick to your little design apps for other people's websites. Leave the real neighborhood decisions to those who understand property values." She said it with that patronizing lilt, the same tone she used when she once told another resident her political yard sign was too divisive and had to come down in 24 hours. The meeting moved on like my idea had never existed. That night, I got the certified letter. Violation notice. My half-planted garden beds, barely started, were non-compliant. I had 48 hours to tear them out or face $500 daily fines. And because I disrupted the harmony of the meeting, Debbie personally added a special clause. My garage had to be cleared immediately for HOA storage of seasonal decorations and event supplies. "It's only fair," she'd cooed over the phone. "We need space, and your garage is the closest to the community center. You don't mind, do you, Sophie? It's just temporary." I stood in my driveway the next morning while half the neighborhood watched from their porches like it was primetime entertainment. Debbie supervised in her golf cart, clipboard in hand, fake concern plastered on her face. "Careful with those tools. Dear, we wouldn't want any scratches on the HOA bins." My beautiful wildflower starters got ripped out and tossed in the trash. My garage, my quiet workspace where I coded side projects late at night, became storage central, plastic tubs of Christmas lights, 4th of July banners, and enough community standards signs to wallpaper a small country. I was banished to the concrete floor with a folding table and one bare bulb. The smell of motor oil and Debbie's lavender air freshener choking the air. That night I sat on a plastic bin, laptop glowing in the dim light, listening to Debbie's golf cart hum away. She laughed, not out loud at the meeting, but the way her eyes crinkled said it all. You'll never be successful with that nonsense. The same woman who once fined a veteran $200 for flying a slightly oversized flag now had my garage. I stared at the half-finished code for my little resident empowerment app, the one I'd been tinkering with in secret, and something cold and sharp crystallized inside me. Debbie thought I was background noise, the shadow resident who coded little apps. Fine, let her think that. I opened a new document titled Liberty Loop Solutions, Phase 1. Goal: build something so bulletproof that when Debbie Hargrove comes crawling, I can hand her the exact same clipboard she loved waving in my face. It wasn't revenge exactly. It was survival. Because in Willow Creek, if you let the Karens win, they never stop. And I was done sleeping well, working in the garage while someone else decided my worth. The coffee shop on Main Street became my real war room. Every dawn I'd meet my co-founder, Marcus, a sharp ex-HOA lawyer who'd grown sick of defending rich Karens. We'd hunch over laptops, building the platform line by line. Liberty Loop would let residents anonymously log violations, vote on rule changes in real time, and even generate legal templates to fight back. No more begging at meetings. No more clipboard tyranny. I handled the sleek UI and algorithms that predicted which petty rules would get overturned in court. Marcus made sure every feature was ironclad against lawsuits. We lived on cheap tacos and spite. My savings tanked. Debt piled up. But every line of code felt like flipping Debbie the bird in slow motion. For months in, a small homeowners group in a neighboring subdivision beta tested it after their own Karen fined them for offensive holiday lights. Within 3 days, their fines dropped 80%. They paid us $75,000 for full rollout. Marcus and I toasted with gas station wine in my now crowded garage, still filled with Debbie's tubs because she forgot to pick them up. She still has no clue, I whispered, watching the analytics dashboard light up with new users. But we stayed ghosts on purpose. The website showed clean white interfaces, no founder photos, email signed only S. Caldwell, chief architect. When clients demanded meetings, Marcus handled them in person while I dialed in as S. Caldwell, gender neutral, faceless, unstoppable. The HOA world hated it and loved it at the same time. Our algorithm flagged ridiculous rules, like Willow Creek's no bird feeders because they attract rodents' claws, and helped residents when small claims court cases left and right. Contracts rolled in. First local groups, then entire subdivisions across Texas. Debbie, meanwhile, kept ruling Willow Creek like nothing had changed. During the annual Labor Day barbecue, she held court on the community green, gesturing with her plastic fork. We simply cannot allow chaos. Standards keep us safe. Neighbors nodded like bobbleheads. I sat quietly at the edge, phone buzzing with alerts. Another 200 users signed up. Another $180,000 contract closed. When Debbie's gaze landed on me, she gave that pity smile. Still doing your little freelance graphics. Sophie? Good for you. Keeping busy. I smiled back. Liberty Loop had just been named Most Innovative Property Tech Startup in a national magazine. The article called us the anonymous Ghostbusters of HOA hell. Debbie probably scrolled right past it on her phone, never imagining the shadow girl whose garden she destroyed was the one building the weapon that would eventually gut her kingdom. The money grew. 6 figures to 7. We moved out of the garage, finally, and into a real office in downtown Austin. A sleek converted warehouse with standing desks and floor-to-ceiling windows. I stood there the first day, remembering the smell of motor oil and Christmas lights, and felt something I'd never felt in Willow Creek. Actual pride. We're going to need a public face eventually, Marcus said one night over projections. That $2.4 million statewide contract is coming. Anonymity won't last forever. Not yet, I told him. Let the work speak. My neighbors stayed oblivious. At the next HOA meeting, Debbie bragged about modernizing the covenants while slapping a $300 fine on a single mom for having her trash can out 2 minutes late. I sat in the back, quietly recording every word on my phone. The app's backend logged it automatically. Users nationwide were using our templates to sue their own Karens. Willow Creek's complaints spiked 400%. Debbie started sweating at meetings, blaming outside agitators. Then the big break, a $30 million partnership with a national homeowner advocacy network. They wanted to white-label Liberty Loop for every subdivision in the country. Marcus looked at me across the conference table. It's time. Sophie, we signed this. Leadership goes public. I nodded. One more month. I was waiting for something specific. Debbie's little empire was cracking. I've been tracking her through public records and user reports. She'd been secretly accepting gifts from landscaping companies in exchange for approving their bids. Classic kickback stuff. Her fines had gotten so absurd that even the spineless board was whispering. One resident posted in our anonymous forum, Debbie just fined me $1,200 for a political sticker on my car. This ends now. The threat exploded. Lawsuits started landing. 3 months later, the hammer fell. A class action suit using our platform templates hit Willow Creek. HOA Debbie was named personally. The board forced her to resign for health reasons. Her face was all over the local news, looking stunned and perfectly coiffed. I only ever wanted what was best for our community, she told the camera with that same fake smile. I watched in my office, sipping coffee, Liberty Loop's valuation ticker hitting $87 million. The garage felt like ancient history. The news broke on a Tuesday. I was reviewing code when Marcus burst in. Debbie Hargrove's company just folded. Wait, she didn't have a company. Her consulting side gig tanked. And the HOA is dissolving the old board. They're looking for new management partners. He slid his phone over. There it was. Willow Creek Estates seeks emergency HOA management firm after leadership scandal. I leaned back, heart steady. Liberty Loop had just inked the exact contract to take over multiple distressed HOAs, including Willow Creek. We were the only bidder with the tech to fix it. The irony tasted better than any champagne. A week later, our HR director knocked, barely hiding her grin. We've got an interesting applicant for the Senior Community Relations Director role. Very qualified on paper. Former HOA president. Launched her own standards consulting firm. Name, Deborah Hargrove. She slid the resume across my desk. 2 pages of polished spin. Her failed consulting described as a strategic exit. Her ousting framed as pursuing new opportunities in property tech. She has no idea who owns this company, I asked quietly. None. Applied through the public portal. Cover letter gushes about how she's followed Liberty Loop's journey and wants to lend her expertise in community standards. I stared at the photo. Same pearl necklace. Same smile. The woman who once stood in my driveway, watching my garden die, now wanted a paycheck from the platform built in the garage she stole. Schedule the interview, I said. Listed under S. Caldwell. Preliminary screening. Marcus found me later pacing. You're not seriously considering. No, I cut in. But she needs to look me in the eye and remember what she laughed at. I spent the next week preparing, not for the job, but for the mirror I was about to hold up. Our latest numbers, $43 million revenue, 312 employees, contracts with 47 subdivisions. We were in due diligence for a $200 million acquisition. Debbie's LinkedIn now screamed, seeking senior leadership in innovative community governance. The same woman who once called my app idea kid stuff was now begging to join the revolution she tried to kill. The morning of the interview, I arrived early and sat in the smallest conference room. No grand gestures, just me, a notepad, and 3 years of quiet rage turned into code. My assistant knocked. "Your 10 a.m. is here. Deborah Hargrove." Send her in. The door opened, and there she was. Designer blazer, slightly rumpled. Confident smile strained, but still Debbie. Still the queen who never had to clear her own garage. She extended her hand, then froze, squinting like she was trying to place a ghost. "Sophie." The word came out strangled. I didn't take her hand. "Have a seat. Deborah, we have a lot to discuss." She sat, shoes tapping nervously. Up close, the desperation showed, dark circles poorly concealed. The bruise of public failure still fresh. "Thank you for seeing me," she managed, voice syrupy. "I've been following Liberty Loop's incredible growth. Your platform is truly visionary." I kept my tone even. "Let's start with your experience. Tell me about your time as HOA president." She launched into the practice speech, hands gesturing exactly like she had at every board meeting. I elevated Willow Creek standards, implemented cutting-edge compliance protocols, navigated complex resident relations with grace. I interrupted. "What was your fine revenue last year?" She blinked. "Well, in a growth phase, metrics can be $187,000 in fines from 312 residents, mostly for flags, trash cans, and one unfortunate bird feeder." "Interesting." I made a note. "In your consulting firm, what made its approach different?" Her hand stilled. "We focused on education first. Technical. $3.2 million in resident lawsuits later." "I see." I kept it conversational. "We built our core compliance engine for under $40,000. Bootstrapped. No kickbacks." Debbie leaned forward, that old condescension creeping back. "Listen, Sophie, I don't know how much you understand about real community leadership, but sometimes you have to spend to protect values. That's what separates true visionaries from small thinkers." I finished softly. She froze. "Tell me," I continued, sliding the folder across the table. "What do you know about Liberty Loop's founding story?" She relaxed a fraction, back on familiar ground. Anonymous founders, brilliant marketing, smart, really. Though between us, she lowered her voice conspiratorially, I always suspected it was some tech bros hiding bad credit or past failures. Real leaders don't hide. Real leaders like you, I echoed. Exactly. Goldman level experience. No. HOA level. I know what it takes at the highest level. That's why I'd be perfect scaling your operations. Liberty Loop has done well for a startup. But to truly lead the industry, you need pedigree. Standards. Someone who understands. I pulled out the violation log from 3 years ago. My own garden teardown. Time-stamped. Photographed. With Debbie's signature approving the fines. Pedigree like this. Her face flushed crimson. That was a misunderstanding. Covenants are covenants. I was only protecting property values. I removed my glasses, the same pair I'd worn coding in that garage, and set them down. Hello, Deborah. The silence that followed could have powered the entire grid. Her mouth opened, closed, open again. Recognition crashed over her like a wave of cheap HOA white paint. Sophie, this is some kind of joke. You're the founder, co-founder. Though you never bothered to research that before applying, just like you never bothered to look at my actual proposal 3 years ago before calling it hippie nonsense and stealing my garage. I didn't mean, she rallied, voice cracking. Sophie, we're neighbors. Whatever happened before is water under the bridge. We're adults, professionals now. Yes, we are. I stood, gathering the papers. which is why I'm giving you the professional courtesy of this interview, instead of having security escort you out the same way you once escorted my garden to the dumpster. Her face cycled through every shade of panic, shock, rage, calculation, then pure desperation. You've done remarkably well. I'm impressed. Truly. With my experience and your technical knowledge. No, I cut her off exactly the way she once cut me off. You haven't even heard my proposal yet. She stood abruptly, then sat again. I really need this position. Sophie, after the lawsuits, the board, my reputation. I know you do. I moved toward the door. Just like I really needed my HOA president to believe in a simple pollinator garden instead of actively destroying it for sport. Funny how need doesn't guarantee results. So that's it? You're rejecting me out of spite. Her voice rose, the polished veneer shattering. I paused at the door. I'm rejecting you because you're not a good fit for our company culture. We value transparency, fairness, and the ability to see potential in ideas that don't come wrapped in pastel cardigans and petty fines. Based on this interview and our extensive prior history, you demonstrate none of those qualities. Sophie, it's Miss Caldwell now, and this interview is over. I stepped back inside and closed the door. Want to know the real irony? If you'd approve my garden instead of tearing it out, your standards consulting firm might still exist. Instead, you built your empire on fear and fines. Mine was built on code you laughed at. I showed her the valuation report on my phone. $214 million pending acquisition. All from the little app you called worthless while you stored Christmas lights in my garage. She flinched like I'd slapped her with the clipboard she once loved. I was trying to protect the community. You were trying to protect your ego. The same ego that couldn't handle the possibility that the quiet graphic designer might understand community better than the queen of the covenants. Debbie slumped. Fight gone. What am I supposed to tell the neighbors? My reputation. Tell them the truth. That you interviewed at the company you tried to destroy without doing your homework. Or keep lying. I honestly don't care anymore. They'll side with you at first. They always did, but their approval stopped mattering to me the night I coded in the garage you stole. A knock. Marcus poked his head in. Sophie, the Willow Creek transition team is here for the handover briefing. I nodded, then looked back at Debbie. You should go. Security will escort you out, the same way you once escorted my future to the curb. She stood slowly, looking everyone her 58 years. At the door she turned, voice barely above a whisper. For what it's worth, the platform is impressive. The real-time voting, the violation predictor, it's everything I claim my standards would be. I know, I said simply. Would you have hired me if we didn't have our history? She considered it, then shook her head. No. Your resume shows a pattern of weaponizing rules against residents, burning goodwill for personal power, and blaming everyone else when it backfires. We run extensive background checks. We would have found out exactly who you are. She nodded, accepting the final blow, and left. I sat alone in the conference room, waiting for triumph or rage. Instead, I just felt finished. The chapter closed. Marcus returned after walking her out. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. The entire lobby is whispering. She'll survive, I said. Karens always do. She'll spin a new narrative, find another neighborhood to terrorize. But she'll always know the girl whose garden she destroyed built the empire that buried her. How do you feel? He asked. Free. And I meant it. Now let's go sign the Willow Creek handover. We've got 312 residents who finally get to vote on their own rules. I walked out into the main floor where my real team, former HOA victims, overlooked coders, and every underdog who'd ever been fined for breathing were prepping the transition. They were my family now. Debbie's resume still sat on the table. I left it there like a monument to everything I'd overcome. By the time the cleaning crew arrived that night, I'd already forgotten it. Some ghosts are surprisingly easy to bury once you stop giving them power. The handover signing went flawlessly. 2 hours of handshakes, digital contracts, and real champagne toasts that turned Willow Creek from a dictatorship into a democracy overnight. I smiled for the press photos, answered questions about our growth, and felt the last weight of that garage lift with every signature. By 5 o'clock, the office buzzed with celebration. Marcus had ordered catering. The entire team toasted under the Liberty Loop banner. I stood by the window watching them, my chosen neighborhood, and my phone vibrated. Debbie. I almost didn't answer, then decided some chapters need final punctuation. Sophie Caldwell. Her voice was shrill, accusatory. How could you? Your own neighbors. You hid this company. Leet. Hello. Deborah. I never lied. I told you I was doing freelance design. You just never asked for details. Don't get smart. The board is furious. They say you're worth millions and couldn't even help your own community when it was struggling. I watched Marcus pop another bottle, laughing with the team. Real joy. No clipboard required. Deborah, you had $187,000 in fines last year. I had a garage full of your Christmas lights. We both got exactly what we deserved. Community helps community. Community doesn't destroy community gardens for sport. Community doesn't use covenants to diminish people. Goodbye. Deborah. I hung up and blocked the number. Then I blocked every Willow Creek contact that would inevitably flood in. 20 years too late. But boundaries start somewhere. Marcus found me an hour later, still by the window in my signing suit. Big day. The biggest. Any regrets? I thought about it. Really searched my heart for guilt. No. She made her choices. I made mine. The only difference is I built something real while she built fines and fear. What's next? I smiled, turning back to the celebration. We're rolling out nationwide, hiring 400 more, opening offices in Denver and Seattle. And I'm putting my actual name on everything from now on. No more hiding. That night, I drove past my old house in Willow Creek. The lights were on in Debbie's former command center, probably an emergency neighborhood meeting about their trader resident. I didn't slow down. Instead, I went home to the real house I'd bought with money earned from the company I built, garden included, wildflowers blooming brighter than ever. I poured a glass of wine, sat on the deck with my laptop open to next quarter's projections, and watched the notifications roll in. The news was everywhere. Sophie Caldwell, the mysterious founder of Liberty Loop, had finally stepped into the light. Connection requests poured from every former HOA victim in America. I ignored them all. The last email of the night was from our PR team, an interview request from a major tech magazine. Female founders who bootstrapped their way to HOA domination. 6 months ago, I would have declined and stayed hidden. Tomorrow's Sophie had nothing left to hide and nothing left to prove. I typed my reply. I'd be happy to share my story. Because it was my story now, not the garden girl, not the garage coder, not the one who'd never succeed. It was the story of every dismissal turned into fuel, every ridiculous rule turned into code, every clipboard turned into a mirror. Debbie was probably still spinning her version at that emergency meeting, painting herself the victim of a vindictive resident. Let her. While she crafted excuses, I'd keep crafting freedom. While she counted old fines, I'd keep counting millions. I closed the laptop and raised my glass to the empty deck. To Sophie Caldwell, who never needed permission to succeed. To the girl in the garage who refused to stay there. To every homeowner still fighting their own Karen, your day is coming. Success isn't the best revenge. Success is just success. The real revenge was proving the only person who ever needed to believe in me was me. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this HOA Karen takedown resonated, smash that subscribe button and share your own neighborhood horror stories below. Your support means everything.